attention to the woman in the gray peacoat boarding the number 47 bus. Her name is Melissa Cartwright. She is 20 years old, a junior at Columbus State University, studying graphic design. She's carrying her laptop bag and a coffee from the campus Starbucks. It's Thursday, November 12th, at 9:47 p.m. She's heading home after a late study session at the library. Now, pay attention to the man who boards 3 stops later. His name is Joseph Okafor. He is 36 years old, originally from Lagos, Nigeria, working night shifts at a packaging facility in the industrial district. He sits 4 rows behind Melissa. Within 90 minutes, Melissa's phone would go dark. Within 3 hours, her mother would report her missing. This was not a routine bus ride home. It was the beginning of a nightmare that would expose a predator operating in plain sight. Melissa Cartwright was not someone who took unnecessary risks. She was careful. She texted her mother every night when she left campus. She sat near the front of the bus where the driver could see her. She kept her earbuds in one ear only, staying aware of her surroundings. On November 12th, she had followed every precaution. The bus surveillance footage shows her boarding at the Henderson Avenue stop at 9:47 p.m. She pays with her student pass. She sits in the 3rd row, right side, directly behind an elderly woman. She pulls out her phone. At 9:52 p.m., she texts her mother. On the bus, home in 25. Her mother, Patricia Cartwright, responds immediately. "K lasagna in the fridge." Melissa sends back a heart emoji. It was the last message she would ever send. At 9:54 p.m., Joseph Okafor boards at the Miller Street stop. The footage shows him paying cash. He moves past several empty seats and sits in the 7th row, 4 rows directly behind Melissa. He does not look at his phone. He does not read. He simply sits, his eyes fixed forward. At 10:03 p.m., the elderly woman exits at Broad Street. Melissa is now alone in the front section of the bus. There are 6 other passengers, all toward the rear. The bus driver, Marcus Webb, would later tell investigators that nothing seemed unusual. It was a typical Thursday night route. At 10:11 p.m., Melissa prepares to exit at her stop, Chambers Road, a residential area 3 blocks from her apartment. The footage shows her standing, adjusting her laptop bag, moving toward the rear exit door. Joseph Okafor stands at the same moment. He exits directly behind her. Patricia Cartwright expected her daughter home by 10:20 p.m. By 10:35, she was concerned. By 10:50, she was calling repeatedly. Each call went straight to voicemail. By 11:15 p.m., she was dialing 911. Columbus police received the missing person report at 11:23 p.m. The responding officer, noting Melissa's age and the short time elapsed, suggested waiting until morning. Patricia Cartwright insisted something was wrong. Her daughter always answered. Always. The officer agreed to file an immediate report. By midnight, Detective Sarah Brennan of the Missing Persons Unit was reviewing the case. One detail caught her attention. Melissa's phone had gone offline at 10:14 p.m., exactly 3 minutes after exiting the bus. That was not normal. Detective Brennan requested immediate access to the city's transit surveillance system. The bus footage told a clear story. Melissa exits at Chambers Road at 10:11 p.m. Joseph Okafor exits immediately behind her. The bus pulls away. The 2 figures walk in the same direction down Chambers Road. The nearest traffic camera, positioned at the intersection of Chambers and Oakwood, captured what happened next. At 10:13 p.m., Melissa walks alone, her phone illuminated in her hand. She appears to be texting or checking something. She is moving at a normal pace, not running, not looking behind her. At 10:14 p.m., Joseph Okafor appears in frame, closing the distance rapidly. At 10:14 and 22 seconds, he is directly behind her. The footage becomes difficult to interpret. There is a brief moment of apparent conversation or interaction. Melissa's body language shifts. Her shoulders tense. She takes a step back. Okafor moves closer. His hand reaches toward her. Then they move out of frame, heading south on Oakwood toward the industrial area. Melissa never reappears on any camera. At 10:14 and 47 seconds, her phone signal terminates. Detective Brennan assembled a team by 3:00 a.m. The digital forensics unit pulled Melissa's phone records. The last ping came from a cell tower covering the industrial district south of Oakwood Avenue, an area of warehouses, storage facilities, and vacant lots. Not residential. Not where Melissa lived. Her apartment was north on Chambers Road, 3 blocks from her bus stop. She had been walking in the wrong direction. By 6:20 a.m., officers were canvassing the Chambers Road area. A convenience store clerk remembered seeing Melissa exit the bus. He did not remember seeing her walk past his store, which she would have had to do to reach her apartment. By 8 a.m., transit police had identified Joseph Okafor from the bus surveillance. His employee ID from the packaging facility provided his full name, address, and work history. He had no prior criminal record. He had been in the United States for 12 years, married, father of 3 children. He had called in sick to work that night. He was not supposed to be on that bus. By 9:00 a.m., Detective Brennan was standing outside Okafor's residence, a small ranch house in the suburban Hilltop neighborhood. His wife answered the door. Joseph was not home. He had left the previous evening around 8:00 p.m., saying he was going to help a friend move furniture. He had not returned. Detective Brennan requested permission to search the property. The wife consented. In the detached garage, investigators found a roll of duct tape, zip ties, a hunting knife, and a blue tarp. All items appeared unused, recently purchased. In the back seat of Okafor's 2007 Honda Accord, a gray peacoat. It matched the coat Melissa had been wearing. The search for Melissa Cartwright intensified. K-9 units tracked her scent from the Chambers Road bus stop south toward the industrial district. The trail ended abruptly at an empty parking lot behind a shuttered textile factory. Tire tracks indicated a vehicle had been parked there recently. By noon, an APB was issued for Joseph Okafor and his Honda Accord. By 2:00 p.m., a citizen tip reported seeing the vehicle parked behind an abandoned warehouse on Frebus Avenue, 4 miles from Melissa's last known location. Tactical units surrounded the building. Detective Brennan entered the warehouse at 2:34 p.m. on November 13th, approximately 16 hours after Melissa's disappearance. The building had been vacant for 8 years. Windows were boarded. The main entrance was chained. Access was through a side door with a broken lock. Inside, the warehouse was a maze of empty storage rooms, rusted machinery, and scattered debris. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. In a storage room in the northwest corner, they found evidence of recent occupation. A sleeping bag, fast food wrappers, empty water bottles, cigarette butts, and in the corner, partially hidden behind a collapsed shelving unit, Melissa's laptop bag. Inside the bag, her laptop, her student ID, her wallet. Nothing was missing. Nothing was taken. The room smelled of sweat and urine. But Melissa Cartwright was not there. Joseph Okafor was found 20 minutes later, hiding in a mechanical room in the building's basement. He did not resist arrest. He said nothing. Detective Brennan transported him to the Central Precinct for questioning. The interrogation began at 4:15 p.m. Okafor was advised of his rights. He declined an attorney initially, then requested one after the first question. The interrogation paused. Through his court-appointed attorney, Okafor provided a statement. He admitted to following Melissa from the bus. He admitted to forcing her to walk to the warehouse. He claimed he had released her that morning, unharmed, and she had walked away. He refused to say where she had gone. Detectives did not believe him. The forensic team processed the warehouse storage room. They found DNA evidence, blood spatter on the concrete floor, minimal but present. Testing would later confirm it belonged to Melissa Cartwright. They found scratches on the wall, consistent with fingernails. They found strands of blonde hair matching Melissa's description. They found her phone, smashed, in a corner. The SIM card had been removed and destroyed. What they did not find was Melissa. Patricia Cartwright held a press conference on November 14th. She stood in front of news cameras, her voice shaking but clear. She held a photo of Melissa, her daughter smiling in her graduation cap from high school 3 years earlier. Patricia described her daughter. Melissa was kind. She was dedicated to her studies. She wanted to work in advertising. She volunteered at an animal shelter. She called her mother every single night. Patricia made a direct appeal. If anyone knew anything, please come forward. If anyone had seen Melissa, please call the tip line. She made a direct appeal to Joseph Okafor. Tell us where she is. Please, just tell us where she is. The press conference was broadcast across local and national news. Within hours, the tip line received over 200 calls. One tip would break the case open. A woman named Claire Henderson called at 7:45 p.m. on November 14th. She had seen the news coverage. She recognized Joseph Okafor. She had a story to tell. In August, 3 months before Melissa's abduction, Claire had been waiting for the number 47 bus at night. Joseph Okafor had approached her at the bus stop. He had asked if she needed a ride. She had declined. He had persisted. She had felt uncomfortable and walked to a nearby gas station to wait inside. When she returned to the stop, he was gone. She had not reported it. She had not thought much of it. But seeing his face on the news, she realized he had been hunting. Detective Brennan requested transit records for August and September. The records showed Joseph Okafor had ridden the number 47 bus 17 times over a 2-month period. He did not work near that route. He did not live near that route. His work schedule showed he was off on each of those 17 nights. He had been riding the bus, watching, selecting. The digital forensics team made a breakthrough on November 15th. Okafor's home computer contained a deleted folder recovered from the hard drive. Inside, photographs. Over 60 photographs, taken surreptitiously on public transit. All of young women. All alone. All at night. The photos were organized by date and bus route. Melissa Cartwright appeared in 12 photos, taken over 6 weeks leading up to November 12th. He had been watching her for a month and a half. This was not impulsive. This was calculated. On November 16th, Detective Brennan conducted a second interrogation of Joseph Okafor. She presented the photographs. She presented the transit records. She presented the physical evidence from the warehouse. She told him they knew he had been planning this. She told him they knew Melissa had not walked away. She asked him one question: where is Melissa Cartwright? Okafor stared at the table. He said nothing. His attorney requested a private consultation. 30 minutes later, the attorney returned with an offer. Joseph Okafor would reveal Melissa's location in exchange for removing the death penalty from consideration. He would plead guilty to all charges. He would accept life in prison without parole. He would tell them where to find her. Detective Brennan consulted with the district attorney's office. At 6:00 p.m., the deal was approved. Joseph Okafor provided a map. Melissa Cartwright's body was recovered at 9:30 p.m. on November 16th from a wooded area adjacent to Griggs Reservoir, 12 miles from the warehouse. She had been strangled. The coroner estimated time of death between midnight and 2:00 a.m. on November 13th, approximately 2 to 4 hours after her abduction. She had been alive in that warehouse. She had been alive when her mother called the police. She had been alive when the first officers began searching. She was 20 years old. Joseph Okafor was formally charged on November 18th with kidnapping, aggravated murder, and tampering with evidence. His trial began on March 3rd of the following year. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: the surveillance footage, the transit records, the photographs, the DNA evidence, the victim's belongings found in his possession, and his own confession regarding the location of her body. The defense argued diminished capacity. Okafor's attorneys presented evidence of untreated depression, cultural isolation, financial stress, and a history of childhood trauma in Nigeria. The prosecution acknowledged these factors. Assistant District Attorney David Kensington was direct in his closing argument. Trauma may explain behavior. It does not excuse it. This was not an impulsive act. This was a predator who stalked his victim for 6 weeks. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Joseph Okafor was found guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He has filed no appeals. Melissa Cartwright's funeral was held on November 22nd. Over 300 people attended: family, friends, classmates, professors, and strangers who had followed her case. Her mother stood at the podium and spoke about her daughter's kindness, her creativity, her dreams. Patricia Cartwright announced the creation of the Melissa Cartwright Safe Transit Foundation, dedicated to improving lighting and surveillance on public transportation and advocating for stronger protections for riders. The foundation successfully lobbied for emergency call buttons on all city buses, real-time GPS tracking available to riders' families, and mandatory panic alarms connected directly to police dispatch. The number 47 bus route was renamed the Melissa Cartwright Memorial Line. At the Chambers Road stop, where Melissa took her last bus ride, a small memorial plaque was installed. It reads, "In memory of Melissa Cartwright, 2004-2024. Taken too soon. Never forgotten." Patricia Cartwright still lives in the same house where she waited for her daughter to come home on November 12th. She keeps Melissa's bedroom exactly as it was. The graphic design textbooks are still on the shelf. The coffee mug Melissa used that morning is still on the desk. Patricia speaks at high schools and universities about public safety and awareness. She tells students to trust their instincts. She tells them to stay visible. She tells them their parents want them to come home. She tells them about Melissa, not about how she died, but about how she lived. Melissa wanted to design album covers for musicians. She collected vintage concert posters. She had a laugh that filled a room. She texted her mother every single night. Patricia ends every speech the same way. Tell the people you love that you love them. You never know which goodbye will be the last. The gray peacoat found in Joseph Okafor's car was returned to Patricia Cartwright after the trial concluded. She keeps it in Melissa's closet. It still smells faintly of her daughter's perfume. Some nights, when the grief is unbearable, Patricia holds the coat and remembers the morning Melissa left for class, smiling, coffee in hand, saying she'd be home for dinner. She never made it home. But she is remembered, and that matters.